632. Close behind 150. Right. Good evening, and welcome to this meeting of Woodley Towns Council Committee. Strategy and Resources Committee being held on the 21st of November 2023, commencing at 8 p.m. Woodley Town Council meetings are now recorded, with the recordings streamed live and stored on the Town Council's YouTube channel. By virtue of attending the meeting, you consent to having your image and audio recorded for this purpose. If you do not wish for your image and audio to be recorded, then please do not stay for the meeting. For those in attendance, we're not expecting a fire drill tonight, so if you hear the fire alarm, please head to the nearest fire exit and congregate at the fire assembly point by the Oakwood Centre at the front of Woodward Park. Okay, onto the agenda. Any apologies?
Yes, I have apologies from Councillor Nagra and Councillor Rowland. Councillor Rowland was hoping to join us virtually.
Okay.
She's not here anymore. Actually, I think she might have just arrived.
Okay, and just for everybody here, if you're on one of the standing committees and you're attending virtually, you cannot vote, which is sad, but that's the law. Declarations of interest. Have we got any? Michael?
Yes, Chairman, I'd like to declare an interest under agenda item. I had it a minute ago. Community grants, agenda item 11, as a member of the Woodley Community Transport Scheme. Is that the right?
Oh, I know.
I am the council's appointed representative and one of their volunteer drivers. So I want to declare an interest in that. And Chairman, I suspect everyone around this table needs to declare an interest in agenda item 15. And in order for us to discuss it, we ought to give ourselves a dispensation under the Act to enable us to talk about it. Otherwise, we'd all have to leave the meeting.
So there is a blanket for the budget setting.
Yeah.
Can we assume that would extend to item 15 because it would be part of the budget?
I would
Is that comparable to discussing setting the council tax, and we're all council taxpayers?
Well, that's the dispensation we already have.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But we can grant ourselves dispensation tonight. Then it's
All right.
covered, and if anyone
Are you proposing that?
I'm proposing we give
Do I have a
ourselves
seconder?
dispensation, and then
All those in favour, please
covered
show.
in law.
Yes, done. That's correct.
I got it embossed.
Always better to be safe than sorry.
Yes.
Item 3, minutes of the meeting held on the 12th of September 2023. To approve the minutes held on the 12th of September 2023, and I will sign them as a correct record. Can I see all those in favour for me to approve? Okay, any against? No. Robert?
Abstaining. Abstaining, I wasn't here.
Oh, okay. Thank you. All right, and I'll sign them after.
I was paying attention, I wasn't.
Actions and follow-ups. To review the actions, page 5. It's on this piece.
Yeah, thank you. So this is a new sheet which you will see at all committees going forward, which was a suggestion made previously, and just enables us to obviously show progress on actions, and acts as a bit of a catch-all for officers as well in bringing things back to committee. You can see on here the tasks, a number of tasks are completed, and there are some that are still in progress, those being the work on the council's youth provision, and the working group is working through that and all of the action points in its terms of reference. There's an item there referring to town centre CCTV, which is a project which is currently on hold. There is some more information on that.
Shall we take them page at a time?
In the town
So then that
centre
gives people an opportunity to.
yeah.
Right. I would like to make a comment on 7. At the recent borough full council meeting, there was a presentation from the Workingham Youth Council, the Youth Council, for very well briefed youngsters. Gave an excellent presentation, which was all around what they thought the borough council should be doing. So I thought this is fortuitous. And afterwards, I did approach them and asked, one, if they would come and redo that here in the next full council meeting. Two, would they be prepared to be on our community youth partnership, which they said yes. And three, oh yes, would they actually also, obviously subject to the chairman, etc., of the working group, come on the working group? So they also said potentially yes. I asked them to get in touch with me. I haven't heard yet from them, but their whole demeanour and attitude is, I think we will hear from them. It'll obviously be down to the community youth partnership to agree that they become a committee member of that. And obviously that's on the youth task and finish working group. So potentially that would mean they'd be okay there as well. Sorry.
Can I just ask a question? Where are they from? Are they from Wokingham, or are any of them from Wembley?
You know the answer?
I think there's one or possibly two from each school that sort of elected across the borough. Brilliant. And Holly, who chairs the youth council, is also the youth MP for Wokingham.
And she is from Finch Hampstead area, isn't she?
No, she lives in Wokingham.
Councillor Rowland, isn't it?
Beth, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I think that's an excellent idea. They've been working with one of the overview and scrutiny committees for a while now, and it is absolutely fabulous to listen to how thoughtful and thought-provoking that they are. They are from across the whole borough, and the youth MP was in the chamber in Parliament the following day, I think. We've got all their details if you didn't get them, and I think that's really good. It also involves younger people in politics. I think if you add our average age up, it's not terribly young. And it would be nice to have some young views, especially on the things that we're trying to do with young people. So I support that 120%.
Thank you, Beth. If you could pass me on contacts, so rather than me waiting for them to contact me, I would like to proactively contact them.
I think Priya has them. I'll get Priya to let you have them.
Thank you, Beth. Has anybody else got any comments on that page?
Yes,
Mike?
Chairman, sorry, the very next item on CCTV, are we to assume that this project, which originally came to this committee for funding, we were asked to put some money into the pot to enable this project to go ahead. Are we to assume it's now stalled because of the application for the Business Improvement District?
Going by the notes, there's some more information in the town centre update, but yes, that project is not moving forward. There are a number of question marks around that, so we're going to move on and maybe overtake it.
For those of you who aren't aware, the BID is a business improvement district, and it moves things dramatically from a group of volunteers trying to manage the town centre to a much more business-oriented, run by businesses, funded by businesses, as a surcharge on their rateable value. So you would expect them to have the say. So it is a radical change, and it's being led with by the town centre manager, Brian, and also the owner of Trademark, Mark Ashwell, as well. And Brian's had experience of bid stuff. So yes, that's a reason. Anne, you had your hand up?
Just thought, action 25B is just a bit blank. I just wondered where the word is. Right, so, okay, so Tom to not ask that yet.
Yeah, sorry, it has been actioned. I don't know why it's not been completed, but it is all the utilities and any invoices that have location I've added where it is and the month it covers.
Update sheet.
That'll be for the next meeting, the updated sheet.
It has been actioned, sorry.
So flipping over to the second page. Any, do you want to give us any update on
Yes,
that?
just to know the.
Oh, yes.
Items there, yeah, we've been working through.
We have got a sort of a rough estimate of what we should hopefully get from HMRC. It's down to what they will approve, but we've got a ballpark figure of 145 to 157,000 pounds that we will be claiming back. So depending on what, once we've submitted the claim and whether he finds, say, no, yes, no, and he will then let us know and we can report back what we've finally got.
There is a claim already in, isn't there?
Yeah,
We've done the initial claim,
Yeah.
but what we've done is updated it to include things that we missed, and
So it's not two claims, it's
That's
one
one
claim,
claim.
which is,
we had to submit an initial one as a bit of marker, so we had to lose.
so that we didn't lose the first quarter or the fourth quarter of 1819, because we were told when we had the meeting that if we didn't claim for that, then we can only claim for the last 4 years, and we would miss that £10,000 worth of
okay,
VAT.
good, and thank you for all the work on that. If we can get some money, it's always good. And the Weevil Park, have we
Yeah.
progressed that at all?
So that was, that came up at the last Leisure Services meeting. There was a resolution to put that request in. That's here to note as well. Obviously, that has potentially some resource implications going forwards for this committee to note, and obviously have an opportunity to comment on. But we don't have a response on that yet.
Anybody else got any question? Cover, right, we'll move straight on. Oh, yes.
Number 28, I think I wasn't able to attend the meeting on the 18th of October. I just wondered how well attended it was. It was described as an informal meeting that Brian Fedley arranged.
Yeah, there were quite a few there, and what I can do is just check the information that went out before and after the meeting, I'm sure that gets recirculated.
I know you sent us some documents and set up a date, and, but
I mean, I found it really useful. The chap who came from British Bits was really was very down to earth and quite engaging about it all. So it was a really good conversation. There were some representatives from Woking Borough Council as well. I think we sort of engaged in that conversation. It was informal, but actually it was a really
I know
useful.
you'd offered to send out a Zoom link, so do you have a recording of the meeting that we could?
It was recorded, but there are some notes from it, I believe. So I'll check those out and make sure they get.
I think overall, I was there, and overall, I think it was a very positive meeting with a strong, let's start pursuing this. We need to get some feedback from Brian and Mark, because they're driving it, those two.
Could we just add to this, what it says it was provided in October, could we just put 18th of October? Because we normally date meetings within it, just gives.
Okay,
Keith,
yes,
well, as I said there, but we have a column at the end here, last updated. Could we somewhere in here actually have the date that something started? So then I can come to the last meeting, you sort of forget what dates and order things happen, and before you know it, 4 years have passed. And if there was some way of, this was flagged up first of all in June 2019, we can be a bit more proactive in getting a conclusion of something, perhaps.
Yep, we can. I mean, they are set by meeting date, so, the meeting that it came up at. They asked.
It'd be nice, it's clearer,
Yeah,
there's better clarity if you have a column with the date.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be the same column, you could just have 1, 2 or something, I don't know. I'm trying to squidge another column in.
Well, I think what you're saying is, so at the next meeting, say, let's talk about the Weevil Park one.
Yeah.
That will come up again, hopefully,
Yeah.
with an action. And we won't be able to track it back to that meeting because it won't be on this sheet, will it? It'll be
But if it said
just another column.
12/9/23,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
then knew when it would have started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we discussed the incorrectly charged VAT and reimbursement prior to the September meeting.
Oh, yes, we have, yeah.
So that was
Years
the first
ago.
time,
Yeah,
well,
Yeah.
certainly in
Last
maybe the June meeting.
yeah.
Okay, and you're right, there will be some that come up to the multiple
Yeah,
times with
yeah.
different updates, but, we can add that.
Yeah, that should be relatively simple.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Thank you. Right, so we're going to move on to item 5, finance, page 7.
Okay, thank you. So, overall, page 7 on expenditure, we are where we expect to be in the year, which is just under the 58% at month 7. There's a couple of items there that are a little over, and even where the total's not over, for example, Oakwood Centre, there's a couple of things that are over a little there, which was staff costs, which was expected because we've absorbed some other work in there. So there's been some overtime, which was down to covering Coronation Hall, basically within the Oakwood Centre staffing, and some changes with the cleaning contracts. There's a couple of things in there. In terms of income, very positive on Oakwood Centre bookings. There's some more information on the later. Yeah, that's about it, I think, for that.
Okay.
Sorry, the interest on the CPLA fund was very strong as well, sorry.
Any questions?
So the Coronation Hall cover, is that done now or is that ongoing?
It's ongoing at the moment. We've been doing a bit of work on assessing that, and we will be recruiting to that post in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
To try and level out those areas and rejig things a bit. There's a bit suck and see for a period of time.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, so we,
Can I ask a question? I might be being completely ignorant here, but we are 58.33% through our year. But we've only got a net of 49.9% of our income. So are we expecting a lot more in the remaining 5 months? Or, I mean, should we, hopefully be on a net of 58.33% of what we need?
The way it tracks, as long as the expenditure remains under the income over, then things are going the right way. It's not always as clear as that because some things, particularly in expenditure, come out earlier in the year as a lump sum, for some are later in the year, so they don't track sort of month by month.
Because I know things like the allotments, they all pay their rent in 1st of January, so that's a big sum. It isn't every month, it's
yeah, and there's some other things, licenses and things like that in some purchases.
I think there's a danger of using that 55 or 53% because things are skewed.
Yeah.
For instance, on the expenses, you've got the 45,000 capital programme allowance, which is all in one big lump.
It starts to make the closer to the year end you get, it makes
more
sense.
For me, the more interesting one is looking at expenditure at this point in time last year versus this year and seeing what variation is.
I think quarterly is, it's easier, isn't it? If you do it quarterly, it swings and roundabouts.
Okay.
So, yeah, I don't find that next line particularly easy to understand. Could you just explain again, 49.9% of what?
That's net of income.
If you take away the expenditure, you have the expenditure and you take away the income, that's the difference between the two, is 49%. over the expenditure
It's the budget, 49% of the
of the
budget.
budget, sorry, yes, of the budget.
So if you look on that page, you've got the budget there. So the budget is a net. Is that positive or negative? It's going to be negative, isn't it? 1 million.
At the moment, it's
We-
one, yes,
We need negative or positive on these,
yes.
right? So this time last year,
It's saying it's 49%. What is that?
yeah, 537 of 1077 would be
Yeah.
the 49%. But it would be helpful if someone used the
Yes.
bits of something.
Make that line more.
Yes.
Yes. Need to,
Okay, any other questions? Robert?
Just relating back to those figures, when I do my accounts, which, you know, are nearly the same sort of money really, I just have headings, income, black, expenditure, red, with a minus on to help me, and at the bottom of the spreadsheet, it tells me which is which, so I can see just on one page exactly how things are. Could we not have that on this, so we're not looking at expenditure and income?
Colour printing.
One of the things we are looking to change, so the format of this is going to change, mainly because we're now using the reports directly from the accounting system.
yeah,
for things.
changing the format, how we're going to present it.
So that we don't have to double handle
Yes.
things and potentially make errors as well. So the format of that is likely to change in the not too distant future, but hopefully be clearer.
Can you expose this committee to a draft of what that will be?
Yeah, we're still looking at the reports and seeing what's
Or
possible.
when you've got it to a draft,
Yes.
can you circulate it around?
And even simple things like grid lines help as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
I always find that a sentence or two narrative, just to summarise or highlight the thing, Kevin, that,
Yeah.
you know, it's really helpful. We can read it about little stuff that's having to ask you.
Sure.
Let's see what the system pumps out.
Yeah.
Okay, that was to receive. Payments now. We need to approve these on, well, they start on page 9 and they'll probably go on. Beth, you've still
13.
got your hand up, by the way. Thank you.
Yeah, we're not approving these, we're just noting these. aren't we?
No, approve. We have to approve these.
Payments to be made?
Yes, they have, but we still need to approve them. Anne,
Yeah, just one or two questions then. Overall, the council's paid about £10,000 towards the eviction of travellers. That's just across the council, and I presume you can't claim that off anyone?
No, it's the cost of the bailiffs that
Yeah.
ramps it up. That's basically what it is, and depending on how it pans out on the day, what that might be. So that was 2 occasions with quite large accounts. To engage.
can you dig into Mike's point about not for here, should we approve them or note them? Because they have been paid. Robert, quick.
Following on from Anne's point, and obviously the encampments are quite inexpensive and an unknown quantity, can you insure against that? Can you pay a premium that will cover you against having to, because then it might be 10,000, might be 100,000. If you've paid a premium, you know what that premium is going to
You
be.
can always insure against anything, it's whether we can afford
Afford
it.
it, yeah.
You must have this, you must have this, you must have that, thank you.
And it doesn't happen that often, when you look over the last 5 years.
No, that's very true, isn't it?
Anne,
Just a couple more questions. Tragically, £7,000 on tree service. What was that? What was that on trees?
sorry? What page?
Oh, sorry, page 11, near the top.
I've got it.
But
Second column, tree service
yeah.
removal, 7,000.
Yeah, so that's a number of tree works actually
That's
around the
quite,
park.
yeah.
Which were tree works identified in the tree survey we had carried out last year. So they're all essential works for dead branches and trees that were in bad shape.
All right, so and did you keep to the policy of planting more trees than were removed?
We have done, in terms of removal there, that's very few trees. I think there
Oh, is it?
that was dead.
Oh, good, good, good.
Most of it was removed with dead branches in existing trees, like the large one that's in front of the Oakwood Centre, for example, which has just sort of high level branches needed some attention. We're keeping on top of that a lot better since we had the survey done.
One, two other things. At the bottom of page 11, there's a 5% retention fee paid.
Yeah, that was the major work that was done, and we were allowed to didn't have to pay that, the full invoice in one go, and so we kept 5% of it back and then paid it to them a year later, just in case there were anything wrong with the works.
Yeah.
So we retained that amount before so we kept it for a year and then paid it.
That was the electrical works at the leisure centre.
Oh, yeah.
The rewiring, yeah.
Oh, thanks, if that makes sense. So the other thing is just near the bottom of page 11, service light columns, Christmas tree lights, £14,355. That's quite a lot of work. What was that?
So that's the installation and purchase of the Christmas lights. That shows us a payment here that in terms of where that comes from. Some of that is in the town centre management accounts, and some of that it was a proportion from the capital programme, which is allocated by this committee, but that's what's like.
Just to remind you, and the town council committed to take on the Christmas tree and the Christmas lights from the town centre management partnership,
Right,
because they were being extremely stretched financially.
right, because in previous years we wouldn't have seen that, but. Okay, okay, thanks.
Alison?
Page 13, the very last item. £729.58 for a recycling bin.
Yeah.
That sounds a lot.
No, it won't last though.
Is it?
It's,
Better outlive. I thought.
it's a pretty serious bin, which has gone in, which we've tried in the park. We did trial a
It's
cheaper
just
one.
one bin.
Yeah, it's a large bin with regular waste and recycling waste in. We're trying. It would last for.
How big is it? Bigger than the table?
Smaller than it's probably. It's kind of size that's big. That's another part.
So, and the separated bins is something that residents have often asked us to have, but clearly if we replaced all our bins with one of these, it's a huge outlay.
It's going to be a trial. This park has been refurbed.
Yeah.
To see whether we have them in the Woodford Park, because it was mentioned by quite a few residents before, and the Leisure Services Committee have looked at it, and it was something that came up when all the bins were
I'm not sure people knew that they cost £730 each though.
And all street furniture is really
It
expensive.
is expensive. We did try some cheap ones last. So this is a very robust unit, which would last for a really long time.
Shame we didn't put it in Woodford Park, because I think the usage would be significantly higher than in a park, particularly as you're getting into winter.
Yeah, we will be doing that. It was a timing thing. It needed to go in at Malone.
Any other questions?
A couple. So on page 11, we paid Circus Scene twice. Once out of Woodley Town Centre for the poster competition. Do they run that for us?
Yes, that is what happened there. I don't have.
Okay, well, and the one above it is the one I'm actually querying, the Santa's Gifts. That doesn't look like it's coming out of Woodley Town Centre. It looks like it's coming out of ours for £300, and that is a Woodley Town Centre event. So, I mean, that's fine, but just needs a bit of clarity. Page 12, on the 5th of October, the Woodley News Agents. I thought we were not going to have weekly newspapers anymore. I thought we decided that was a.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I haven't actioned that. So yeah.
No.
Okay, so we need to stop that then.
Yep.
And the Halloween event, Circus Scene. If we add up how much we're paying Circus Scene, we seem to be paying them quite a lot of money. Is it worth considering getting some sort of contract with them rather than keep paying them ad hoc amounts?
Yeah, so these are town centre management,
Well, that one certainly is.
activities, they do show up here as payments, because technically the council pays it does come from.
Yeah, well, that one does. The Santa one didn't appear to, but yeah,
It's something that Town Centre Partnership should look into.
I think so. It looks like they have a really, and they've been knocking about doing that event for years, so they obviously have a very strong relationship with them.
And they're pretty good.
You know, they're very good, but I just think it's probably worth doing a bit of a deal with them, isn't it?
Yeah, I'll put Brian back.
But if they do, we need to make sure there's a break point, because when if the bid is successful.
Yeah,
it'll take a couple of
absolutely.
years.
Absolutely.
The TCMP will cease to exist.
Yeah.
Mike?
Yes, Chairman, I'm curious as to the payments we've made to Redibus on page 12 and also to First Days Children's Charity. They're both grants. Are these earmark grants? That's to say, are they specifically budgeted for in the accounts? Because I don't recall us ever sitting around the table approving these sums of money.
They are,
They are approved
yeah.
at each meeting, I think.
No, hang on.
Sorry.
There are there's one big grant pot that goes out once a year, which is included in the budget. And that tends to go to people like Redibus, Keep Mobile, ARC, and a few others. So they would have been approved as part of the budget setting.
Last
Yep.
time, it's before we were town councillors, great.
They came to a council meeting to talk about how they were using the grant to thank us. Do you remember?
So
The
certainly
annual town
Redibus
meetings,
is
I
that
do-
in
I
that
do
scenario.
remember that, yeah.
Then we have the 251, which we'll be talking about,
Right.
which again is a yearly thing. And then we've got the £100 for individuals, which again is a yearly
You see
thing.
where I'm coming from? If we've already agreed these sums of money to First Days and Redibus, and did you say?
Citizens advice is here.
Me too,
Yes, they sit under the planning community committee. Which is
right,
not
which I'm not on. So we've already agreed those sums, and yet we're being asked to agree a sum of money of 2.5 grand, which I specifically voted against. We'll come on to that later, but you see my point? We seem to be giving, yeah.
We do have different.
Well, I have asked already, Mike, to pick up your point, because logic would say we should be noting, not approving.
Yes, well, yes, indeed.
That's logic. So I've asked Kevin to go away and look and clarify that.
But some parish councils don't pay anything until it's been approved by the councillors. All their suppliers have to wait for a council.
Yeah.
Quite easy to do, it's very responsible.
So I don't want to labour it because we've got it in hand, okay?
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Any other specific questions? Otherwise, until the process is changed, all those in favour of approving the whole lot, please. We're doing a vote? Thank you. All right. So the next item is the PSDF funds.
Yeah, because we've got some good investments or reinvested in coming back into the accounts. And it looks good that hopefully by the end of the year, we should be on the one that has 2 million, nearly 80,000 this year, hopefully. And then on the second investment, I'm hoping we should be well over 50,000 for this financial year. And it's doing very well, thank you.
Any questions, comments?
Yeah, sorry, could you just remind us what the right-hand investment is?
The right hand is the money that we had, the money, it's really the earmark reserve funds that are in excess of what, like we had 2 million for the building for the council, the Oakwood Centre, and then the 1.3 was sitting in our deposit account, which was unfortunately not earning the interest that we're getting at the moment. So we thought we'd have another second account that we could gain more interest than what is 1 point or less than 1%, whereas at the moment we're getting sort of 5%.
it's all the councils at the moment.
Exactly.
It's all the council's money.
That's not in the bank accounts for operational purposes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we agreed a risk stratification for this funding earlier in
Yeah.
the year. Are we going to be able to review that at some point?
Yes, I'm looking at dates for investments supplementing.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. That's just ready for noting. Moving on, Oakwood Centre income update. Starting on page 15.
Yeah, so there's the two charts there on pages 15 and 16. So to note that, as mentioned before, the room hire is performing very well at the Oakwood Centre, and we're looking at around about 56,000 at the moment against the budget of 38,000. And catering income is tracking a little above budget, around 10,000 against the budget of 8,750 in the year. So in terms of the Oakwood Centre room hire, we've had more parties, more social bookings. It's really picked up, and that's had a knock on that we saw earlier as well in some of the increased staffing costs. There's always a downside to it.
I'm going to go with Juliet first.
Sorry, this reminds me, I meant to ask on the thing before, where it says brown bag and we've paid for a food first aid course, 62 quid, obviously to do with the catering. Do we pay for them to be able to do things like that? Does that not come out of their company?
No, so if we have a booking, we just book catering as if we were a customer and do that.
So what's the paying Brown Bag Limited for a food first aid course?
It was I think it's the wording there, it would be the first aid course that we ran and booked some food.
Got it, thank you. But you know, they're doing really well, aren't they, in terms of income?
Yeah, they're on a good year.
Yeah, very good, yeah.
Robert, and then Alison.
Thank you, Chairman. Kevin, so we have here the income increasing. How are we at capacity? So if we've got 100 hours of room available, how do we measure that? How many people do you say, sorry, can't do it, fill up?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's not quite as straightforward as that because bookings are all the same. Some use bigger rooms, some in terms of timing and other things going on in the centre. So there wouldn't be a scenario where every room is booked out all the time. It's impossible. But what this doesn't show you is a bit more information, which again we are looking to do in terms of the business plan for this centre, to provide a bit more information, particularly about where that income comes from in terms of type of booking and capacities for rooms. So we're identifying which rooms are underutilised, for example, so we can target those in terms of selling them. So that's not here, but that's what we do.
And turning people away? Who booked?
Not very often. It would be a social booking, generally speaking, because people want the same dates quite often, and there's only so many Fridays and Saturdays. But other than that,
Good, excellent, thank you.
Alison.
You know, clearly we're approaching the amount of income we had pre-COVID, but we have increased the room hire rates, haven't we? Yes. So you would expect that we're not.
yeah, and you're right because you're looking at
Yeah, I'm not expressing this very clearly, but I think it's not like links at
Yeah,
ways with
yeah,
what Rob
yeah,
was saying in that to understand how
Yeah,
well
and-
we're marketing and getting the bookings in, the actual income doesn't necessarily reflect that.
Yeah, we can probably do that in a better way now. We used to show it in blocks. You might not remember, but it was really clunky table which showed kind of blocks of bookings, which were a little bit meaningless because we didn't charge by the hour. We changed that last year so that charging made more sense. But yeah, I think we'll be able to provide that better going forward than just being a number. Yeah.
It's the one room that doesn't get, booked very often.
Maxwell Hall's not as popular because it's not as nice as this, not carpeted, but it's a similar sort of size to one of these, but gets used more in conjunction with the front hall. Yeah, that's kind of it really. We're able to shuffle things between rooms as well, because they're all pretty multifunctional, but no, we haven't got a DOF one particularly.
But there isn't anything we could do with Maxwell to make it more attractive.
Again, because it works so well with the carnival hall, we do use it in conjunction with that quite a lot. It's also a barrier between this room and carnival if there's something more noisy. So it's a room that has a use in that way as well. So sometimes if we've got a party on, we can still have something this end without it sort of interfering.
Any other questions? I've got one, or a request.
Yep.
As we're clearly seem to be getting the Oakwood Centre back on the street, where it used to be, I would be very interested in knowing how many or a percentage of inquiries are actually converted into bookings. Because I think that could put, if we're converting 100%, clearly we won't be, that would tend to suggest we need to do more marketing or whatever, because we're not getting enough people. It's just looking at that basic number.
So, I think we spoke about this via our marketing, but when people do make a booking, if we could ask them, how did you hear about the Oakwood Centre? Keep a record. We'd know, is the Herald affected? Is our Facebook marketing affected? Just to get some steer on that.
Okay, so we'll move on to item 7, PR and marketing subcommittee.
Looking at page 16.
No, that's the income.
Oh, it's
Page 17. There is a recommendation for us to resolve. Do you want to talk it?
Yeah, sure. So there are some recommendations here. It was a very interesting meeting, and we talked quite a bit about the Herald and the way that that's produced and distributed. The proposal there for a few reasons, which was detailed in the report, was to change the frequency of that from 3 issues a year to 2, but to 2 more substantial ones, which can include more information and in a slightly different way. I just felt that was a good way forward, and also help the communications manager being able to actually manage that. And in addition to those changes, there were 2 documents. One was guidelines for Woodley Town Council communications, which is fairly straightforward and just provides an outline of how we communicate going forwards, and also the introduction of the community engagement policy, which again just gives some structure to the way that we do things. Those documents are included there in 7.
Any questions? We'll go straight to the recommendations on page 19. Can I take them all as en bloc? All those in favour, please show. Unanimous, thank you very much. And can we put on record our thanks to Anushka? She's really on top of things. There's a lot more social media, etc. going on. She's done a very good job.
Yeah, and the next version of the Herald looks great. Is that going out to residents like this week?
Yes, yeah.
Christmas one.
Could we send a PDF copy to all councillors now then? I think it's
Yeah,
because
okay.
to be frank, I don't think the first time we see our Herald should be when it comes through our letter box.
If somebody speaks to you about it, you can then acknowledge it if you haven't had it.
Yeah, because they might get it before you do.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Can I just ask a quick question about this community engagement policy? How are we going to maximise that? Who's going to be responsible for ensuring that we live that as a proper thing?
Yeah, so what I want to do is, in a similar way to we've done with making sure we're adhering to the equality and environmental thing, with an impact assessment. Every time we do something, we run it through this and make sure that we're hitting those things. How can we do that? Are we doing this? Are we doing this? Are we doing this? And then we do that at officer level as a matter of course, just as we do whatever it is that we've got going. So we literally sit down and go through.
And how, I'm just thinking of some of the engagement events that we do through the council, that town electors thing.
Yeah.
I think we probably just need to really focus on this a little bit, because I think there's a lot more we can do, and Beth has been doing some work in Woking with mental health services, and that fits really nicely here as well. So I just wonder if at some point we ought to have a bit of discussion about this.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, Chair.
Yeah, that's fine, that's fine. We'll bring that back to here, discussion.
I don't know, wherever you think it best, it might just be an offline conversation. It's just,
What do you think about that?
you know, I live, sleep and eat and breathe that.
Yeah, and I think if there are any suggested things to be included in there specifically,
Yeah.
things like that, then
I mean, it's a good, there's nothing wrong with policy, it's just really
Yeah.
general.
yeah, it is. And I think any improvements to that can come back through. If you send them to me,
Yeah.
I can put them back through the PR subcommittee and come back through.
It's how we use it, it's simple.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, cool.
Right, so we'll move on to item 8, which is the Standing Orders and Financial Regulations Subcommittee, on page 27. Want me to run through this? I can, as I was there. So you can see from page 29 on, there were a variety of suggestions. Some were tidying up, some were clarification, etc. And can I use this time to remind everyone, please, if there's anything in standing orders you think is not clear or is contradictory, please feed it into Matthew so it gets into this committee. We've got that mechanism to correct things. So I'll just very quickly, the issue 1, let's try, which is the number 2 at the top, I think, isn't it? No, it's confusing, isn't it? Issue 1. Oh, this was to do with, I'm trying to see which one it is. Yeah, oh, it's not here. Sorry. It's because what it was to do with was what happens in the scenario which we had before the new councillors came on board, where we had 2 vacancies that were caused. One was caused through a death and one was caused through a resignation. And because of that, you had to go through the election process, or go the time scan for an election process. So those positions were empty. That meant you couldn't do business. It is not the situation where someone changes allegiance, because that can very quickly be sorted out, because it just changes, potentially changes the proportionality rules, and we can reset things. But if it's someone who's died or no longer there, and there's got to be an election associated with it, we had a situation where 8 weeks, 8 weeks, something like that, where we couldn't make business, and that's not acceptable. So we kicked around a variety of ideas and sent Matthew away to clarify the text he was trying to propose, because it was mixing up the business of somebody changing allegiance, which is already catered for, and the vacancy. And we sent him back to say, just concentrate on what happens when there's a vacancy. Do we just leave it dormant and carry on? Do we have emergency meetings or whatever? And he's going to come back. That's why it's not here, so apologies for that.
So Keith,
Yeah.
which item are you just talking
It's not on page 29 because he's been sent away. So issue 1 on page 27 isn't incorporated in 29, page 29, because he was sent away to read it.
So there's no recommendation.
Can you remind me why there's no issue 2?
Yeah. So issue 2 was just clarifying the legal. I think, Mike, you might have raised that.
Yes, I did. It was to do with the Public Bodies Admissions to Meetings Act
Yeah.
1960 and Matthews.
So that was really just bringing in the legal reference. There's an issue 3 as well. Okay. Issue 3 was a contradiction between two. You need to make sure these tally up. Next one, please. Between to do with proposer of a motion able to speak on a matter. There was 2 sections in the standing orders. One said one thing and one said another. And so we came down on the one that's not mentioned. Apologies for that. Issue 4 was, again, it's a clarity because it talks about a simple majority and a majority across certain sections within the standing orders. So it raises the question, what's the difference between a majority and a simple majority? Well, really there isn't. So it was recommended that the changes, as you can see there, to just talk about a majority, which everybody understands. And the recommendation is also section 18, which is dedicated to voting. It just has a definition, majorities, ABC. That one. The 5 isn't there either. This was something, again, I think you raised, Mike, about pecuniary interest to do with whether public. This was really convoluted, and we basically said, as you can see, repeatedly word it.
Where are we, Keith? I'm lost.
Bottom of page 27.
Oh, I've gone too far.
All right, bottom of page 27. Issue 5.
Thank you.
It was to do with some issues that when a member has got a pecuniary interest, can he raise an interest or can he comment? And it was like, you can do it if it's public, but you can't do it.
We'll be bringing that one back.
Yeah. So we said, no. Make it clearer, please. Nearly there. Issue 6, that was again actually spawned from the 2 elections that we needed, but nobody came forward, so it went to co-option, and it was to do with there was co-option for 2 roles, and could people vote for 2? Do we do them as 2 separates, or do you take it as 1 or whatever? So we approved, or we recommended approval of, on page 31, which is the items in red. Right, so that was just actually clarifying or solidifying the way it worked last time. We were sort of making it up as we went along because it hadn't happened before, like a lot of these things. 7, just talking about responsible financial officer being split from the town clerk. Historically, the role of the RFO was with the town clerk. Now it's with my friend here on the right.
Can I just ask a clarifying question?
Mhm.
The co-option piece, all
Oh.
options must be considered and approved at the meeting of full council. Is it worth adding in there or extraordinary meeting? Because otherwise, potentially, you're going to be waiting for the next full council, which is, could be another 8 weeks or so, couldn't
We
it?
did have an extraordinary full council.
Yeah, well, I
to
just
do
think
it all.
you probably just need to add it in as a,
Full or
Yeah.
extraordinary.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay. 8 on page 31. That was again, we took not contradiction, but different terminology, outside bodies, outside organisations. We've plumped for outside bodies. Okay, and then item 9 was something again that occurred where an outside body permits a substitute. I think Beth was involved in this, actually. We didn't have any standing orders to cover that, and this is just bringing in, so if an outside body can allow a representative and a substitute, there will be separate votes in exactly the same way as the SULV joint committee with Early Town as well. And then item 10, just really bringing up to date because there's been quite a few new policies created and accepted, and the standing order had not kept up with it. So that's just really bringing those in. Oh. So going back to page 28, there is a
Keith, I've got my
recommendation.
hand up.
Oh, sorry, Beth. Apologies.
Well, that's all right. I'd just like to make a comment on page 32, item 10. If on behaviour, if a councillor has had a complaint made about them to the primary authority, how does the council know about it? It's published in the agenda for full council at the principal authority, but is it published anywhere in the local council, in the town council?
Yeah, the answer is no. It depends on what capacity the councillor has had a complaint. If it's a complaint of the town, if it's a town councillor, or the complaint is related to the town council for dual-hatted people like you and I, right? Then it should be notified to the town council of that. Now, I don't think the borough the constitution covers that, and it's an interesting point. I will raise it when we review section 4 of the WBC, which is the code of conduct. But if it's to do with the borough council or a dual-hatted and it's borough matters, then the town council shouldn't necessarily be involved because it's not related to them. Is that okay with you, Beth?
Yes, I think we need to be clear on it, because it isn't clear at the moment, and it's not such a secretive process as it was before. As you know, the rules have been changed and it is now published.
Yep.
So yes, if we have a look at that, I think the town council should know if a complaint has been made about a town councillor in their role as a town councillor.
That seems perfectly reasonable. And as I said, as a member of the Constitutional Review Working Group, CRWG, who are reviewing all of the WBC constitution, I'll make sure that's brought up.
Do we have to change? Do we have to change our constitution as well?
No, I don't think so. But I'll let Kevin have a look at that. Remember, all code of conduct complaints are done by the working borough, whether it's parish, town, or borough.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
they're the Supreme Court.
And we do need to be careful with things being accused and not being proven. Yes, in terms of, muddying somebody's name, because in the past there have been a lot of game playing around that. So I think we do need to be careful.
Okay, can we move on? Right, okay. Right, so, the financial regulations.
We've done the.
I'm not going to go through those.
Recommendations, have we?
Oh, sorry. The recommendations there is the top box. All those in favour with the amendment that Julia suggested.
So is this about the revised standing orders?
Yes, the first box. All right, that's unanimous. Financial regulations. Mostly this is a textual RFO finance manager, but I did notice there was some other significant stuff on page 14 to do with quotations.
Recommendation, you've got another recommendation.
Yeah, no, I'm just talking through. So there was some stuff that's changed to do with quotations. Page 14.
That's been changed just to make it clearer. It's not worded terribly well, it's kind of slightly out of date, so that's been a.
Any questions on that? I can go straight to the recommendations. All those in favour, please.
Yep.
Thank you. It's approved. Woodland Town Centre Partnership, page 50.
That's a question. It describes councillor Kay Gilbert as a WBC representative. Are you?
Sorry?
The WBC
This is,
representative,
you're on the,
Town Centre Management.
Oh, yes, yes.
that's not true.
No, I'm not. Town centre.
This was a new, this is not an office as creating
Do
the,
we have 3 reps from
two.
town council?
and it's myself and Mary Holmes.
And
So Kay was attending.
there is.
Yeah. And you aren't the WBC representative, but, so can you feed that back? Get it changed. Anything else? Any questions or can we move on? No? Okay. Project schedule. Page 53.
So just to note, these are the projects that this committee approved a little while ago from both the capital programme and our available still money and some play area work from the earmarked reserve. Obviously, the ones in green there have been completed. That's the new boilers in this building, heating boilers, and the safety surfacing at Malone Park. Just to note, while that work was being done at Malone Park, the amenities team also refurbished all the play equipment there, replaced all the swing seats, chains, and repainted all of the equipment there as well. So yeah, that format will come to each meeting just so members can see how those projects progress through the year.
Any questions, Alison?
The
no.
committee is looking at the seating to mark the coronation.
So
That
that's
seems to have been pushed out a lot.
Yeah,
That's in April.
that's something we'll need to bring back. It originally came with a proposal for some seating in the location out here, which didn't proceed. Council didn't like it, so we've got to review it and see what.
Because it was a proposal for specific seat was brought to full council.
Yeah.
We didn't like it.
We didn't like it.
No, we didn't like it at all. But it seems to have gone quiet. Is it? Have you found some alternatives? And is that going to leisure or will that come to SNR?
Not yet. It slipped down the list. Basically, as a less urgent item, so we need to get back on it. I would come back to. I think that we went to leisure the first place. I think it came straight to full.
Came straight to full.
Because time
Yeah, it was many days later, we were like, well,
Yeah.
okay, this is going to go like it.
Can we put it on the agenda for the next leisure services? And then we can actually put a date and expected completion then, rather than the TBC.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I just point out to everybody, if you're on social media, you will have seen the constant advertising for a maintenance officer.
I thought we could do both.
And it's very, and it's, everyone's struggling to find someone who's, I was talking to Colin actually about this yesterday, that fits what they're looking for, because they're looking for jack of all trades, master of none, and everyone's coming, oh, my speciality is this, and my speciality is that. But I think Kevin and Colin have got some ideas. So that is impacting the schedules of the capital programs, because a lot of the work saves a lot of money is done by Colin and his team. And he's short-handed and thinks there's another person potentially also going, which will just add pressure.
Could we allocate money for temporary agency people to help them on grounds work
You answer that.
and
Yeah.
or maintenance if they are short-staffed for any reason that's beyond their control.
We're looking at it as a potential, it's not something we need money specifically allocated to, it's something that we, I have, that not that easy to find.
And it's, I know it's a cost as well, agency is a big
Mm.
cost.
But it remains an option.
As is taking somebody in and training them up, but then that takes years. And then unless you put golden handcuffs, once they've been trained up, they'll move on, if you're not careful. Okay, can we move on?
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, I'll just very quick. I thought I read somewhere that the water refill station might have happened or not.
No. Oh, I think you might be thinking of the water supply to the town centre garden, which has finally,
I'm not actually, that's good though. It's good, isn't it?
it's
Yeah.
taken 2 years.
Have they got the water fill station on the Oakwood Centre now? Or we only put one on the leisure centre?
No, it's for the leisure centre was a project item. What we can do is look at doing that elsewhere as well. There's also there was an offer of funding from Rotary for a similar unit over in the town centre. To fund it, which we've been looking at, chasing or looking into schematics and well, the water is basically to do it, so that so to fit it into the town, the garden tap, yeah. Okay, but yes, that's an option going forward.
So let's push on. Item 11, community grants. Page 54, 55, 56, and then the rules, etc. on 57. So my only comment, and missed immediately, the obvious one, is Me Too Club. Since they've now got a grant of 2,500, we need to take that out. This is my view. They should be taken out of the 250 because they've got that 2,500, 10 times more than that. On all the other ones, I personally were okay actually, but I'll throw it open to the floor. If you've got any questions. If not, we'll just go straight to the vote on all those minus Me Too.
Chairman, I've got my hand up.
Sorry, Beth.
It's all right. Looking back at some of these, we've been given grants to these groups since 2013-14, which I'm sad to say is 10 years ago, of £250. And £250 spending power 10 years ago was a huge amount different to what it is today, especially with the current inflation levels. I wonder if we could look, and obviously we can't do it tonight, at increasing this to make it come a bit more into line with the spending or the buying power of £250, not necessarily for all of them, but certainly for some of them.
I think it's a good point, Beth, and thank you for making it. I think the time for doing that will be when we set the budget.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there's an overall budget for this.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be difficult to have differential grants.
Well, it may be that we decide to keep them all the same. I don't know, but I think we need to look at it.
Okay.
I think for just say if it's up to a limit, you could raise that limit because this committee still can lower the amount if it sort of fits.
Sorry, Robert.
Before we go with your recommendation of agreeing these and excluding Me Too Club, we ought to discuss point 14 because we haven't considered the recommendation that we actually give them the £2,500 yet.
Yeah.
So we don't think we can.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So subject to item 14, good point, being approved. My recommendation is we accept them as is. If it's not approved, then Me Too Club would be accepted as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I would just like to know why did Woking Job Support Centre have their application refused last year? I was on this committee last year.
Oh, sorry, you want to know why?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
I think it was because Woodley residents tend to go to Reading.
Well, because I did notice that we're giving £250 for something that helps 9 people from Woodley. You know, and the others are supporting other hundreds or at least 20 people in Woodley. It is a small, you know, they're getting the same grant as all the others, but they're only helping 9 people from Woodley.
But on the other hand, it's like £30 each, isn't it, to get them employed?
So are you suggesting, Alison, that the Working Job Support Centre is refused again? In essence, that's what you're saying, aren't you? Because it's only 9 beneficiaries.
I think it's very important that we have that figure, that we're asked how many people in Woodley do you support, because this is what it's about, using Woodley residents who pay the tax and tax. We, you know, whereas, you know, some of the other things like the Woodley Volunteer Centre, they're only helping people from Woodley.
What's the general feeling for that?
I'm happy with that.
It's a very small
Okay.
percentage of
I
the
didn't think
population,
last year it was refused because there were so few from Woodley.
and
And
that hasn't changed.
it hasn't changed. I really don't see why
Okay.
we shouldn't support.
So,
Oh, can I just say then, I think it's good value even for those few people. I think they provide a good service.
Do you have any evidence that they actually get?
I went to a meeting there, and I was literally there sort of thing. I just thought it was a very good service that they provided. And I just think, although it's only 9 people, I think £250 is actually good value for what they do.
But then that service isn't going to stop without that too.
no.
No.
Well, that's what I think, it's a 250 over their 27,000 budget is.
Does it not give them a reason to have an interest in Woodley people?
Because, well, they get grant from the Borough Council, which is Woodley people. So,
Surely there's,
£50 is very motivating.
surely the example is that last year it was rejected. So they had, that was a very good incentive to increase the number. And I don't know what the number was from Woodley last time, but 9 is low, so it must have been either incredibly low or it hasn't moved. So they've survived and they've looked after the 9 without the 250.
it is very difficult for people to get from Woodley to Wokingham on public transport.
It is.
It's that one bus that goes from Wokingham.
They tend to go to Reading, I think, my understanding.
Okay, so Plan C is with the caveat of me too, right? We approve chemo gift bags, Woodley Adopt or WASP, Schools Cluster, Woodley United and Woodley Volunteer Centre.
Yep.
So we could give them all an extra 50 quid if we don't give the Job Support Centre 250.
So all those,
So that would suit Beth's suggestion that they should be given more.
well, you know, we'll do it for the budget. All
Well, yes,
those,
that's what I'm saying.
all those in favour, please, there's a proposal,
Yes.
right? Okay.
I'm sorry, can we just read, why can't we do that? Because it's the same envelope of money.
Why can't we then give them all the?
It's not changing
An extra 100.
It's not changing the allocated spend at all, it's just moving it round.
Well, you take that £500 and divvy it out to the rest.
If we're giving me two.
No reason why we can't do that, is there? Keith,
Yeah,
there's no reason why we can't, is there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
otherwise we don't spend it.
And if we're just going to get that lovely chunk from HMRC, it seems a bit churlish not to
Yeah.
spend it.
I second Alison's proposal that we divvy it out.
If you look at page 57, it does say grants of up to 250.
Oh, so we need to change the
That's-
constitution, do we?
It does, it's just got.
Oh, yeah, grants of up to £250
But we could suspend that.
Can't we just have a,
Who sets that rule up?
Especially with the inflation so high.
sure we can make a judgment, can't
Yeah.
we?
The council could choose to do that.
And could this committee, as part of that council, choose to do that now?
Yes.
There you go then.
Right.
We're getting radical, this is great.
We are, yeah.
Proposer seconder, please.
I'll propose it.
Second.
So what are you proposing? Precisely.
Proposing that, you know, we give £350 to the 5 that we are
Yes.
supporting.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Which is the 250 from the Me Too and the 250 from the Woking one, that's 500. Means we can allocate an extra 100 to the 5.
Yeah,
That's a good idea.
That one.
because of having looked, you know, at the previous grant award, it
As
hasn't changed for 10
as
years.
our esteemed finance officer, or what's it, regional, whatever. What happens if we refuse the Me Too Club? Because you've just reallocated their £250.
Well, why
across.
don't we move to that agenda?
Information about that now, and then
Yes.
just come back.
Yeah.
Could I propose that we move to that agenda item and then return to this one?
There you
So
go.
we've done it in the right order.
Very good.
Who put this agenda together?
It's
Not me.
it's a variation to the order of business, understanding orders.
Right,
Yeah.
I need a proposer and seconder for that, please.
Yes.
All those in favour?
Yes.
Done. There'll be someone somewhere complaining that we didn't do it right. Okay, youth grant applications, item 14. Hopefully this is page 61. We can.
63.
Sorry,
62.
62. Sorry about that.
62.
Did we actually have a vote on the grants?
No, vote it to
We've suspended that agenda item. We've moved the.
decide about Me Too, then you can go back to the decision about.
Okay. Right. Yes,
I'll say something about this.
you certainly can.
Thank you. Item 14, we're on now. So has everyone watched the Leisure Services Committee meeting on YouTube? Excellent, good. Just checking. No, seriously, we had a really good debate and discussion and disagreement over the allocation of this money to these two groups. And we were looking at the criteria, we were looking at the niceties of it, how many people in Woodley were used, and the Me Too group, there were 20 people in Woodley of 125. So all differences of opinions, and we've agreed to do 2.5 to Me Too and 2.5 to Berkshire Renegades, who actually asked for 3,000, but we just matched the two together. Now, Mike pointed out, and please, Mike, do interrupt me if I'm misquoting or, but our guidance notes, our remit was that we should be for the benefit of Woodley only. We'd already agreed, we'd had the vote, so, and we sort of feel we need, I don't know, we think we need a bit more guidance on how black and white, if you want us to be so black and white on this, because it was a real tough decision. And the other thing we were really aware of, it was the first time we've done it. Was there a right, was there a wrong answer? And obviously, as you know, we haven't spent any money on new services for some years, so we felt that we had to do the right thing. And did we do the right thing? That was just sort of a little introduction, really, I wanted to give.
Since this is a brand new grant, we'll be learning as we go along.
I was really interested to look at the voting.
Mm.
So it felt like the Me Too one was a bit more positive, but the Renegades one, and having read it, I'm still not completely sure what it is they do. You know, ultimately, there were 2 people that said yes and 4 people that either weren't sure or said no.
Mm.
And that bothers me a little, but I wasn't there to hear how marvellous it was.
And I wonder if the people that had abstained would have, I abstained. I wonder if I'd have abstained, I don't know, if I'd have known that I was voting for it by default.
Right.
You know, you sort of didn't realise, forgot, hadn't understood that abstaining to it wasn't a nice no, if you like. You were actually going against
You're
it.
just
So let's try and unpick. So the Berkshire Renegades, if I remember rightly, are American football.
Yeah.
American football.
Yeah.
That's what they play.
And they're based in the Woodford Park here. They pay £3,000 a year to play.
Oh, so Reading Sports Park, that's what we call ourselves, is it?
No, it's something else in there as well.
That's where they play their matches.
Yeah.
They
Okay.
use
Where they're based.
our facilities for training. So
Training.
if you look at their grant application, they've got 40 young people, 21 and under, benefiting from this service, of which 6 are resident in Woodley. And my point on this, and with me too, was that I didn't feel that was benefiting the majority of residents in Woodley. It was benefiting a small proportion. 6 in the case of Berkshire Renegades,
15%.
and well, it says 7 in Teen.
Whatever that is.
Out of 125. I don't know where they get 27 from, but again, I was really struggling as to whether this is. I mean, I know we've got this money, and I know we're trying to allocate it for the benefit of young people. But just because we haven't spent it doesn't give us carte blanche to go out and spend what is Woodley residents' tax income that we're custodians of, yeah. And I just didn't feel I had enough information to be able to vote for these 2 applications, which is why I voted against, and I had my vote recorded with the reason.
So just before I come to you, we need to be very careful that we don't run this as a version 2 of the leisure services, because both of you were on it, both of you are abstained. You're now arguing why you did that, but the other members who said yes or no aren't here to do the counter. What we need to be very, very careful that we don't step into your field.
Absolutely.
Otherwise we'll do it ourselves.
That's a really fair point. My point is, are we following the right rules? Are the rules right?
Well, can I make a suggestion on this? Is we look at the recommendation, and I understand about, there's 4 people against or didn't vote for, etc. This is the first time we've done it. After this, we should then review, on your point, whether we've got the right set of guidelines from creating the guidelines here. My only comment beyond that would be on the Me Too. I think Teen WNRD, I hate abbreviations because they don't explain what they are. I think that's a project. Okay. And that project has got 27 people, or youth, 21 and under, in that project, of which seven of them are actually Woodley residents. So it's actually 7 out of 27, not 7 out of 125. They would.
It says maximum 15 young people. Those meetings, is that possible? Because it has up to 25 members.
Yeah, I think the fact that they put their other figures for the Me Too on there, when they're applying for a grant for the project, has muddled this.
But if you then talk about the 7 out of 125, B2's got less percentage, because that's the danger when you do absolute numbers. But look at the percentage the Renegades are. So we could spend a lot, we've got some very important things to come.
So I just want to say, I think we need to be really clear, because Anne made a really good point that for the other one that we've just said no to, there were 9. And I'm not suggesting we overturn this, but if we are responsible for that other bit, then we just need to make sure that we've looked at parity and equity across. So I'm not suggesting we unpick this, just suggesting that we try and align ourselves.
If it's a percentage, it's 4.5% for there and it's 9% for this. So it's, where do you draw a line?
Yeah, I think it's the application process that needs a bit tidying up.
Yeah.
Do you think our guidelines, our rules for this, we should set you should be 25% of the people or of the young people you're helping should be from Woodley. So then, don't bother applying.
I think it's
I don't
criteria
think
to apply.
25% is too,
The-
I mean, that's 75% of non-Woodley people that we're helping with
just
Woodley people's money.
the
This is not
criteria.
money, this is the residents' money.
Just know that the criteria and the scoring matrix were approved previously, but as you said, this is new. So if the committee wanted to review that can
Yeah,
back to
first
future
round, we've
meeting.
learned. I think it's probably, it's iterative and it's have another review and I don't disagree.
What I would like to just throw into the mix there is obviously that will take some time, so I need to go back to this committee, but during that period, if any further grant applications come in, we would consider them with the existing. It's not something that doesn't delay things if we get
I mean, it's good.
the grant application.
Was it thought disappointing that only 2 organisations applied? Because this is an amazing opportunity,
Can you remember?
up to £3,000.
I thought that more had to apply, but they've been, they hadn't reached any of these criteria.
Is that right?
Am I just making that up from some terrible dream?
I'm not 100% sure.
And because the Mayor's charity this year is Lunch Bunch, I was talking to them about this, they didn't know about it. So I think there is also something about how we disseminated this as well.
It's been in the papers and
I'm
it's.
sure it has, but they've missed it. So, so are there other ways that we could do it? Could we target? Could we?
We can do it. Yeah.
Working in volunteer sector operates for the borough, if people want to volunteer, they go to them, they tell them about opportunities. Surely, they know the contact
They ought to
details
be
of all of
disseminating it.
the organisations and could help them about this.
Yes, I agree.
But I assume, Rob, that these were the 2 applications you had because you completed the scoring matrix at the committee.
No, that was already,
The committee didn't complete the.
No,
It was said in the minutes, members complete the matrix.
there was, I did write something down. We went through it because we were talking about numbers. But I would have, it's all going to be on YouTube. I have to look back and see it.
Are the minutes wrong?
It was-
Line 3, members, the intention that members.
Yeah, we did.
complete the matrix. Oh, right.
But yeah, because I had a 7 written down for something. I can't remember, sorry.
That was the intention, and then that's what it says in that sentence. That's not what happened. There was a debate around it and then a vote on each grant, but without completing the scoring. on each.
Yes, we did, I remember now, because I said on one of them, on the Berkshire Renegades, I could get to 7, because you could get to 1 with all your 7 points, or if you looked at the question in a different way, does it tackle crime and antisocial behaviour for supporting young people? You could answer that yes or no, depending on how you looked at the question or looked at the charity. And it wasn't because I was for or against it, it was just so we could actually discuss both sides of it and come up with an answer. Yeah. And I don't think Mike or I are wishing to make this committee vote against these. We just wanted to flag, I wanted to flag this up so we can have a good open discussion and we weren't uncomfortable with something.
Can I just say, looking at the Me Too text, I think what might be the case is maybe they get a grant to do their mainstream activities, maybe from the borough council, I don't know. And so what they're asking for here is to fund some extra activities, actually. They're saying for those who are no longer attending their mainstream activities, but who want to engage with me, I think it might be sort of an extra thing on top of what they normally do. Because the rest of it perhaps already has.
Yeah, this application is for a project, and
Yes,
250 was for their men. I have to say, I'm always uncomfortable that leisure discusses something at length, but then it comes to this committee to approve. I don't understand why it's treated almost like a junior committee.
Particularly.
Well, you can make that same argument about leisure services budget, because that comes here.
Yes.
Planning community budget comes here.
This is the parent committee, so.
Yeah, this is the financial committee. We're the bankers.
committee, but
Yes, but under which committee does this budget sit, the £27,000? Under leisure?
No, it's under this.
This
Well,
is
under this committee?
Yeah, which is why that has to go place to go through. Can I suggest, Mr. Chairman, that we consider this grant and agree it now, and then ask the clerk to agenda item to review it in future? Please.
Right,
It's
so-
9:30.
why does youth grant applications go to Leisure and Amenities Committee?
Can we not do a redesign of the organisation here at this meeting? We've got a lot of work, you know. You know, well, that's the way the cookie crumbles at the moment. I will agree, let's review it. I would send a request to all Leisure Services Committee members and this committee to send you observations, which then can be put together into the Leisure Services review of the guidelines.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Is that?
Yeah.
agreeable?
Thank you.
Okay, so formally, the 2 youth grant applications in front of you, Me Too and Bartra. All those in favour? All those against? That's approved. Okay, well done.
Thank you.
Now we go back to the community grants. I'm going to take them one at a time because we might be able to just rather than try. Chemo gift bags would fail your 25% criteria if we had it. If it's 20 out of 450, that's not 25%. Can we approve the chemo gift? Yes, no?
Yes.
Yeah.
All those-
The 25% I was talking about that's a lot, we were talking about £2,500, which is.
I know, it's a lot more than 20. I suspect if it was part of the criteria that they had to demonstrate 25%, they would.
And the 250 is ring fenced for Woodley residents, so it doesn't go anywhere else. So I think that's on its own.
Yeah.
Right, so we've approved the chemo gifts. We're skipping the Me Too because they've got 2,500. Working on jobs.
No, sorry, what we didn't appreciate, I think, is that the 2,500 in item 14 is specifically to that project for teenagers, which was, the different numbers of children, whereas this is enabling, children to go to weekly activities, if they need a one-to-one support so they can go to judo or go to brownies or whatever. It's a very different application.
Completely changed what you said.
Yeah, because I haven't taken that on board.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
honestly don't think that it would be differentiated. That money will go into and be used, won't it?
Well, can I, let's not have any more discussion on Me Too. Let's, Alison, I'm drawing a line on this one. We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour for Me Too, please show.
To do what?
To give the 250
Or 350?
or plus.
Oh, because we weren't.
Well, it's only 250.
Okay.
It's not.
okay.
We can't.
All those in favour, please show. To all those against. 3-2, and all those abstaining. Okay, I didn't see your vote.
I voted,
For or against? Against, okay. So what is that?
That's 4 against.
All right, so that fails. Working with job support, we've said no, okay. WASP, I think, all those in favour, please, the WASP. Thank you. Woodley Schools Cluster, again, that's totally Woodley, all those in favour, please. Woodley United FC, all those in favour. Woodley Volunteer Centre, all those in favour. All those against, abstain.
I think I want to abstain as a.
Oh, yes, well, you can't vote anyway. Sorry.
It's a person.
Chairman.
250 or 350, bearing in mind we got rid of 2 of them and we did have that discussion about.
We've got a proposer was Alison for 350.
Yes.
Seconder was Robert. All those favour for 350. Done. And we need to review that. Well done, Beth. You got your 3, you got extra money. Well done.
Anne and I, doing the wasp litter picking, as I hope
And
you
outside the budget process,
Yeah,
good lord.
we did.
Right. Allotments rent review. Page 58.
You just sigh then, Keith.
Well, I know what's coming, and I wanted to get as much time for what's coming. Yeah.
Okay, so page 58 provides a background for newer members here on the established processes. So those being those 3 bullet points there, which are the standard rate has historically been increased by this September RPI in that year. The non-resident rates are set at 50% above the resident rate, and that the pensioner rate is provides us 25% discount from the standard rate. Charges are set a year in advance of coming into force, in line with the requirements of the Allotments Act. So the rents to be agreed here would come into force from January 2025. One thing to note is the annual lease fee with Reading Borough Council for the site has increased from this year to 9,673 from 7,300. So there's an increased cost under the terms of the lease going forwards. Page 59 shows, so the coloured table there shows the first one shows the agreement last year for the charges that will apply from this coming January 2024. And the next box at the bottom of page 59 shows the proposed charges to be applied from January 2025, which is what being asked to look at this evening. The charges here are based on a percentage increase in line with the September RPI. That's of 8.9% in this year. And also includes for a small increase in the water charge, which you can see there is separated out, and that's an increase from 40 pence per pole per year to 50 pence. That charge hasn't changed since 2014 when it was first introduced. What that means, just for some context, is the increase overall of both of those would equate to a £6 per year increase for a Woodley resident with a large plot, with a 10-pole plot. That's being proposed in mind of cost of living pressures for residents, but also to recognise that there are some increased costs in leasing and maintaining the site. Just going over onto the next page, just to note that the charges do remain competitive with other town council run sites in the area, and we've always tried to keep it reasonable for people. So that's the proposal this year.
Any questions? Robert?
So we'll just, you say comparable other sites, do other sites also run us a loss? Councils also run us a loss? Subsidy, they have to subsidise their plots. Yeah.
Alison?
Our RPI had dropped to 6.1% in October. That's a simple difference. I mean,
Yeah, it's just historically, it's always been the September figure that.
I think in other years we haven't.
September RPI is the figure that the government used for benefit increases and all other increases. So it's general across the country. Lots of organisations use that as a standard
Yeah,
figure.
I know exactly what RPI is. Thank you, Beth. I was just commenting that it's almost 25% less than RPI was in September.
Yeah, no, it's the September RPI that is used though by all sorts of organisations.
And our allotment holders are getting a damn good deal. If you look at the competitive stuff on page 60, we're infinitely cheaper.
Yeah.
Question I have for the future is, it would be useful to know what percentage or what proportion of the sites, the plots, are non-Woodley versus Woodley going forward, because looking at some of what other people are paying, you know, the non-residential rate 50%. And I noticed that, for instance, in Newbury, non-residents paid twice.
But Reading residents have priority over the allotment because they own the site.
They do,
Yes, but we set the,
but yeah, I can provide that information. Go for it.
yeah, just, you know, if it's small, then, you know, it's not material, but if it's quite large, we could take that out going forward. And this 12-month delay is infuriating.
Part of the, you know, this is part of the community cohesion and the community engagement piece, isn't it? You know, this is absolutely vital for people's health and well-being. We're subsidising it. We need to start shouting about that there.
Can I just say, I think some Woodley people will use the Church Road allotments. There's a bit of quid pro quo.
Church Road or
That's early.
early
That's
time.
early.
In Maze Lane, isn't it?
It's early.
Yeah, that's early.
Yes, that's something with having a Barrow Capital allotment,
Yeah.
but on, in Woking Barrow Land. The early, council are down, you know, just behind the mosque. Alongside the bottom of the A329M.
Yeah, the one that
That's
you
where the
go
early
down under,
council allotments are.
yeah, under the railway bridge. They're on the right there.
Right.
I just wondered why we didn't have, in the comparison list, we didn't have Reading.
Include that next time. Or-
Yeah, I think, you know,
Could you, that data and the proportional number, could you dig that out and circulate it to members of the committee rather than wait until next committee? I know it won't change the decision, but it'd be useful to have, I think. So I want to go straight to the recommendations on bottom of page 60. Unless anybody complains, I want to take them on block. All those in favour, please show. Nobody against. Okay, so thank you for that. Council meeting dates, page 61 there, that's really to note. I'm going to say if you've got any issues or problems, please contact Kevin outside this meeting. Right, so now, town council expenses.
Allowances.
Allowances, sorry, allowances. Hey, big tax, NI.
Not pay.
Yeah. Do you want to introduce it or shall I go straight in? In the interest of time, I'm not going to ask Kevin to introduce this. I'm assuming you've all read it. Okay. I've got a statement I want to make right up front, and then I'm going to throw it to the floor. I'm not going to participate beyond that. But I'm hopefully I'll set the scene and give you my own personal view. So this is a very important decision on many different levels. This committee will have the final say on whether the IRP recommendations, Independent Remuneration Panel recommendations to pay an allowance is accepted or not. It's no other committee, it's this committee. If the vote is not to implement it, then that will be the end of it for the foreseeable future. If the vote is to accept the recommendation, then I would like to propose a task and finish working group to discuss the implementation details. And we create that and report back to this committee. So I'd just like to put this into context, recommendation into context. Currently, none of Woking Borough's 17 parish and town councils currently pay any allowance to their councillors. Doesn't say that that's right or wrong, but that is the fact. Whilst there are others across the country, and I pay thanks to Mike who provided 3 examples recently to me, across the country to do this, it doesn't seem to be a wide-scale practice. Such an allowance, for your own information, will be subject to income tax. And if you're not retired, it will be subject to NI. Minimum 20%, 15, I think it's 6% NI, and the town council will have to pay nearly 14% NI. That's just putting it in context. So now I'd like to put my personal view, and want to point out this is not the view of my group. we're all acting independently, which is what I think is the right thing. I personally think we shouldn't be voting ourselves this payment. It's an allowance, but it's still a payment because it's taxed and denied. And no matter how small this is, it's only talking about £400. We're in the midst of a cost of living crisis, and many of our residents who voted for us to become councillors are struggling. Demand on Woodley Food Bank is consistently high, reflecting this crisis. I think voting to accept this payment sends all the wrong messages to those residents who find themselves in these scenarios, not knowing where their next meal's going to come from. Now, there is a suggestion, it's a valid suggestion from several councillors, that providing this allowance will likely to increase the potential pool of candidates for elections going forward. Well, from my experience of recruiting candidates over the last 20 years, and I would estimate I've talked to around about 100 potential candidates over that period, probably more. Not one of those who declined used finance as the reason for saying no. So finally, I just wanted to just expand a bit. If the vote is we do it on the potential terms of reference for the task and finish working group, if the committee votes that way. There are a lot of key questions that need to be sorted out. So for instance, do we pay it monthly or in a lump sum? If it's a lump sum, do we pay it at the beginning or end of the fiscal year? Do we allocate parts of the payment for specific tasks like IT in exactly the same way that the borough does? Do we pay on a per committee attendance basis? Should there be a trigger point? So for instance, in Totnes, which is one of the examples Mike gave me, Totnes, you have to attend a minimum of 75% of all committees that you're on, subcommittees, task and finish. Do we do that? As we approaching the new budget setting process for next year, should we delay the implementation of this for the next financial year when the new budgets come in? And this isn't just the exhaustive list. There's a lot more things to be done. So I'm now going to throw it open to the audience, you guys, and I'm not going to say any more. Okay.
Right. 6 months ago, we all put ourselves forward for election or re-election to the Woodley Town Council. At this time, we all know that these positions were unpaid. Yet we still put ourselves up for this. What has changed? Why is it now that we feel that we should be paid for this position? What was it that's not sufficient to accept the honour to be actually elected, placed on the council, and to be allowed to give back to the community that we all love? I mean, I really feel quite strongly that I have, as you know, been on the council for 28 years and never ever accepted anything. So I'm really pleased. I do feel that people talked about the additional allowance that borough members get. Well, borough members actually must do at least 10 plus times the amount of work that we do here. I was a borough member myself for 18 years, and I know damn well it was almost a full-time job. I really don't see that being on the town council, although it's a prestigious and a really honour to be on the town council, I don't feel that at this time we should be paying ourselves anything. I really feel the residents will be quite upset to think that we are actually voting ourselves payment for a job which has been done for years voluntarily. Sorry.
Thank you. Beth, have you got your hand up to speak?
I have.
I know
Yes,
you
thank
can't
you.
vote. I know you can't vote, but I would like to hear your views.
I know. Thank you, Chairman. This isn't necessarily my view, because I can echo every word that Kay has said, as I too have been on the council since 1992. But we are all well over the age of consent and in a position where we are free to give our time at will, almost. For most of us, we're retired. I'm thinking of people like a young lady I was speaking to in the week who wants to be involved in politics and is only just of the age where she can stand, or a young mum who has a couple of children who has to have a babysitter to be able to attend meetings. And that, because that is a cost on them, I don't know how they can ever stand for council until they're financially able to. And that makes me very sad that we exclude young people. And I'm not saying I'm in support of this. We exclude young people. And we've discussed this several times before over the years, both at borough and town, that have to pay costs to get there, especially for looking after children.
Thank you, Beth. You can take your hand down.
Thank you.
Right, I'm going to go Robert.
Thank you, Keith. I whole 100% agree with what Beth's just said. I would like to suggest, Mr. Chairman, that we do set up a task and finish working group. And for the reasons that Beth said, and I'll add in people who've got mobility issues, who haven't got transport on a filthy, cold, wet night, they could pay for a taxi to come to a meeting rather than large hits and things would be another reason I'd add to it. And I'd like to suggest that we aren't paying ourselves, and that we actually implement this from the next election of this town council, which will be 3 years' time, I believe. Keith came up with some very valid reasons about cost of living, etc. All those cost of living reasons, food banks, etc. That applies not only to us as councillors, but people who are thinking of standing. And again, the reasons that Beth said, they would apply to them as well.
Thank you.
Mike? Okay. Parish and town councillors are volunteers. We are not paid a salary. However, we are entitled to receive financial compensation and travelling expenses while on official town council business, providing that business is outside the parish boundary, for example, attending a training course or a conference. These regulations, the Local Authority Members Allowances England regulations, what a mouthful, 2003, have been in place for 20 years. And yet we're looking at this now. This should have been looked at 20 years ago. But it does provide a legal framework for parish and town councils to agree to make payments of allowances subject to the recommendations of the borough's remuneration panel. This ensures councillors are not left out of pocket. It covers costs such as travelling to and from these meetings, parking charges, IT costs, and, as has been said by Beth, child care and elderly care provision. It also recognises our time devoted to council business on behalf of local people. As I have demonstrated in the paper circulated tonight, we're not the first parish or town council to start paying councillors. I accept that we would be the first in Wokingham Borough. Indeed, some of those shown on the schedule have been paying their councillors for years. I don't support the view that acceptance of the remuneration panel recommendation will send the wrong message to our residents. Many believe we already receive a remuneration already, albeit an allowance rather than a salary. Personally, I have served in voluntary capacities in all sorts of positions, as on a parochial church council, as a primary school governor, and other community organisations raising money. If the committee supports the proposal to award allowances, then councillors are free to accept or decline these payments. It's not compulsory. I'm a passionate supporter of local governance at the town and parish council level. We are the tier closest to our communities. Sorry, borough councillors, but we are. Equally, I believe the council should be representative of the town we serve. Look at us around this table. We're all, getting on 50 plus, I would suggest. And therefore, if we are to truly represent our communities, then we ought to be given equal opportunities
Yeah.
for younger people. For example, single parents who would need to pay for childcare allowance, that would certainly encourage them to stand. And that is my view. I would certainly say, let's support it, and you are free to reject or accept the payments.
Right, Julia?
Yes, so I don't think we've got any evidence that that's the reason why people aren't becoming councillors. I think we are generally pale, male and stale, and that's the view of us from the community. I mean, we're not, but that's the view. So I think we need to work really hard to recruit new people. I don't disagree with Beth and the rest of you around, there may well be some barriers, but I think we can take that on an individual basis. I mean, people are not queuing at the door to be councillors. The majority of them have been brought in by Keith or somebody else who had who put his foot in my door for about 2 years. And you know, I'm sure you've done that with other people as well. And at that point, that's the conversation, isn't it? You know, are there any barriers for you becoming a councillor here? Is there anything we can do to help? And I'm not saying never. I'm just saying I personally would not want to be paid. I work very hard for this council, but I do it on my terms. And the expectation is that I do what I can. You start giving me an allowance or some funding, I won't be doing this again, because the expectation will be that I will be at the beck and call and therefore be expected to do maybe more, maybe less, I don't know. But I don't want that added pressure. I did this as an altruistic act. I think we all did. You know, it isn't always easy, but I'm inclined to agree. I think this is the wrong time, because whether you believe the public think we're being paid or not, I have a measure that I use at work, which is the Daily Mail headline. You know, and yes, we're not a Daily Mail headliner, but this will hit the press. And I think it's the wrong message. At this time, I just don't believe this is the right thing to do. Now, I think there is something about equity and providing support for people to come and join this, but I'm not sure it's financial. I think it's about coming alongside people, understanding what their barriers are and supporting each individual. In case in point, so I will be voting against this.
Before Robert comes, I'm going to come back.
Yes.
Right, so
We'll go around.
we're getting close to, so I've got to do something about extending the meeting. Let's get.
I forgot what I was going to say then.
Robert, what I want to do is I want everybody to have a chance to say one.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we'll go around.
I better write these points
Right.
down. What did you say?
As the business of the meeting has not been completed by 10 o'clock, well, at least that clock, in accordance with Standing Order 11.5, I propose that the meeting continue until no later than 10:30. Can I have a seconder? Thank you. All those in favour, please. Thank you. Right, let's get on with it. Anne?
Yeah, I just want to say that I feel exactly the same as what Juliet said, actually, about how I want to remain voluntary myself. But if there was a different suggestion to provide specific expenses for people for travel and for carer costs, I think that would be good. And actually, I have been, well, I don't, yeah, but I don't mean that everybody gets a blanket amount, you see. What I mean is you had a care on such and such a night and you apply for the cost of that, not that you get £100 a year, whatever. And just to say that actually I have been exactly in this position because I was asked to be a counsellor when my children were tiny, and I didn't stand because my children were tiny. But if I'd been able to claim carers costs, I could have started being a counsellor a bit earlier. I would have considered it.
So I wasn't going to speak, but just two factual points. You already can claim travel expenses.
Yes.
Already.
Yes, I mean,
And there is no legal opportunity to provide care, and that is a mistake. And I believe that whatever the organisation, HDOC or something, is trying to lobbying, but at the moment there is no legal right to pay specific childcare allowance.
Right.
So that's just two facts. Alice?
Yeah, I very much agree with Kay, with Juliet. I won't be voting in favour of this. I would like, as a town council, for us to also write to the government minister, as it says on page 72, requesting early as possible review, to be able to give expenses to those who need to pay carers. Because I think that is a terrible admission from the regulations.
Robert, you wanted to come back?
Thank you, Keith. Well, thank you, everyone. Keith, Chairman. Juliet said about financial people necessarily having, one by one, having issues they could ask for funding or ask for help. I spent 7 years in my career dealing with people who had financial problems. They would come and see you, and I've been to court and stopped a house being cleared out for £3.50 debt because of all the costs that are added to it. People with financial problems rarely ask for help until it's too late. They don't like admitting to it. They don't like asking for it. And it is a big, big barrier. And if, Keith, you came to my door and I couldn't afford to come to council, I wouldn't have told you that, even though I tell you my deepest secrets anyway. Okay, the other point about us paying us and people seeing it and 10-inch headlines on the Daily Mail. It was why I said that we don't do it for us. We do it for the next incumbents in this position, for the next council elections in 2020, whenever it is, so that we cannot be viewed as that we're doing it for us. I believe passionately that everybody has a right to do everything. Everyone should have a chance, equality for all. And I said the other day in an email, it's my socialist conservatism coming out here. And I think if any barrier is put in to stop somebody from doing something, I think that is wholly wrong. So who are we? I know we're an elected committee, but who are we to sit here and say no to our future possible candidates for this council? I don't believe we are. And comments coming around the table, people have come up with different suggestions. And I think we should really set up this task and finish working group to come out with the right reasons for doing it. We can do it in so many different ways, whether it's voluntary, you take it, you could donate it to charity, and that would mitigate the tax with gift aid. You could, I just think we need to have the opportunity for task and finish to go through this and come up with a proper, sensible recommendation so that we can take it forward for future councils, not for us today.
Thank you, Robert. Is there anybody else want to speak?
Can I say something?
Yes, okay.
Why nowadays is it seemed impossible for people to do something for nothing? I find it really incredible that whenever anybody's asked to do something, they say, how much do I get paid? Now, my husband and I ran 3 clubs for youngsters for 37 years.
That's 37 years ago.
Robert,
No.
Robert, please.
We did it for 37 years and we only finished when the Bullmarsh pool closed. But somebody said to me once, well, who pays you? And I said, nobody. Well, why on earth do you do it? And that seems to be the attitude nowadays, that nobody wants to do something for nothing.
So, yeah, right. Greg, and then that would be everybody's participated, because I want to draw this to a close.
I'm not persuaded to vote for this. I don't think, as a councillor, I could look somebody in the face who's going to the food bank, having voted to pay myself to do what I do as a councillor. So I just think it sends the wrong message, as people have said around the table, at this particular time when people are in Woodley are really, there's some people, some of our residents are really struggling. And yeah, I couldn't vote for this.
Okay, thank you. Right, I'm going to draw it to close now because it is getting late. We've all had a good talk and both sides have had a second talk, speech as well. So, yeah, the only comment before I go to the vote is there's nothing to stop the group of councillors in 2027 to look at it again. You know, it can be looked at any time. So all those in favour of the... Right. So I'm going to take the first 2 points on the recommendations, page 66, because that's noting the contents of this report and to note the notice of the IRP report. Okay, as to note, so we don't act. well, it's a recommendation. So all those in favour to note those two, please show. Noting those, yes, just noting those. Now, the third, which is the crunch, whether to pay allowance. All those in favour of paying the allowance, please show. 2. All those against, please show.
6 against, 2 for.
Any abstention? And Beth, okay, I know you can't vote, but I was going to ask you what your, if you were sat here, what your vote would have been. What it being inclusive. Right, thank you. So that falls. Climate emergency update 75. We've got 5 minutes.
So just to note, there's not much more there except action point 11 was progressed in the Emergency Services Committee with a pretty good bonfires on the right side from January 2025.
Kevin, I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Are you close to a microphone?
I will speak up, Beth. Sorry, just tired.
Thank you.
So yeah, just to note that action point 11 in the emergency action plan has been actioned in that the Leisure Services Committee did agree to prohibit bonfires on the allotment sites from January 2025. We'll be sending information out to tenants over this coming year about alternatives to that. That was the only change.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments? Can we move on? Perhaps to note. Any future agenda items or public?
Sorry.
Yes.
The version of the climate emergency plan on the website, it's a year old.
Please, if you find anything on the website that is not up to date, don't wait for a meeting. Just contact, send an email to, I guess, Matthew, is it? Or Kevin.
Yeah.
And get it updated immediately. All right. I'm going to take 17 and 18 together. Any future agenda items published on the website? Alison?
Can we discuss the quality of the sound at full council meetings? I know Beth said before that when she's online you can't hear anything. I know if you look on YouTube it's not really worth bothering.
Mumbling.
When we're in here, we have these microphones. We don't use them in the other room.
No, because the current system, we are looking at the system for one that can use more microphones. It can only use 4, and in the larger room with more councillors, they're not sufficient. We have tried it in the bigger room and it doesn't work very well. So there's a wall-mounted unit in there, which is what we use. But the sound quality in there, because of the high ceiling and the size of the room, is very, very poor. So we're looking at improving the acoustics within the room and also at a technological solution so that we can get that sound better. And I've got a couple of companies coming to us.
You have another microphone, you run around and give it to the person who wants to speak. Because at the moment, it's not little point broadcasting on YouTube. It's just not.
Yeah. Oh, we're looking at what we can do to improve it. There are things we can do with the room itself to improve the sound, because it does work pretty well in this size room. But yeah, no.
I'm sorry, Kevin, I can't agree with that. It doesn't at all. A lot of it is really mumbled and muffled. And I think it would be quite useful for some of us or all of us to have public speaking training, because you need to project your voice in a slightly different way. To be or not to be.
That is the question. Right, thank you. I want to move on.
Will this come up as a future action point? Yes.
Thank you, Michael. Hi, Michael. So to resolve it in line with Standing Order 12.2, in view of the confidential nature of the business about to be transacted in relation to personnel matters, it is advisable in the public interest that the public and press are temporarily excluded, and they are asked to withdraw for item 20 on the agenda. All those in favour? Thank you.
Okay, give me just a moment.